Hello everyone, welcome to How-FixIT. In this video guide, I'll show you how to migrate Windows OS or clone a hard drive to an SSD or M.2 NVMe using free software. What's covered in this video? I'll show you which adapters you'll need to connect the target drive to your laptop or PC, how to disable BitLocker encryption to avoid cloning errors. We'll look at the 5 best free disk cloning software options, Samsung Magician, a free data migration tool but only for Samsung drives, AOMEI Backupper, DiskGenius, and Macrium Reflect X, 3 simple programs that allow free disk cloning, Rescuezilla, open source software that is completely free but requires additional configuration for cloning. Finally, I'll explain how to fix the most common issues that may occur after cloning your disk. If you're transferring data from a 2.5-inch SATA hard drive to an SSD, you'll need a SATA to USB adapter, which allows you to connect the target SSD to a USB port. For cloning data from an M.2 NVMe SSD to a larger M.2 SSD, you'll need a USB enclosure for M.2 NVMe SSDs. Since most laptops don't support 2 M.2 drives, this enclosure enables you to connect an M.2 SSD via USB. It's crucial to understand the difference between M.2 NVMe and M.2 SATA drives. If your drive is M.2 SATA, make sure the USB enclosure supports the SATA interface. I've included links in the video description for the SATA to USB adapter and USB enclosures for both M.2 NVMe and M.2 SATA SSDs. If you're replacing the SSD in a laptop, you'll also need tools such as a precision screwdriver set and a plastic pry tool to safely open the case. To access the SSD, you'll have to remove the laptop's bottom cover, which is usually secured with a few standard screw types: Phillips, typically size number 1, or Torx, common sizes, T5, T6, or T8. Having the right precision screwdriver set is essential for a smooth upgrade. I've also included a link to the recommended tools in the video description below. And always remember, before replacing the SSD, disconnect the laptop battery cable to prevent damage. If your drive is encrypted with BitLocker, you should suspend or temporarily decrypt it before cloning. Otherwise, the cloning tool may not be able to read the drive properly, potentially resulting in a non-bootable system. How to disable BitLocker encryption. Sign into Windows with an administrator account and open Settings. In the Settings app, go to Privacy and Security. Select Device Encryption. Use the toggle button to turn off device encryption. Decryption may take some time depending on the amount of data on your drive. Samsung Magician. If your SSD is from Samsung, the best option is to use Samsung Magician, as it provides a tailored cloning solution for Samsung drives. Visit the Samsung website and download the installation file, link in the description. Run the downloaded file and complete the installation. At the top of the screen, you'll see 2 drives. Source drive, your current drive with the operating system. Target drive, the new SSD for cloning. Select data migration, and the software will scan your current drive. If your current drive is encrypted with BitLocker, Samsung Magician will not be able to clone it. You must disable BitLocker encryption before proceeding. After cloning, you can re-enable encryption on the new drive. Once BitLocker is disabled, the application will recognize your source drive. Select your target drive from the drop-down list. If the list is inactive, refresh the drive list. Click Start to begin the migration. A pop-up warning will appear informing you that all data on the target drive will be deleted. Click OK to proceed. The cloning time depends on the amount of data on your source drive. All hidden partitions, technical partitions, and recovery partitions will also be cloned. Once the process is complete, turn off your laptop and install the new SSD. DiskGenius. Now let's clone a disk using DiskGenius. Download and install the application. Link to the official website is in the video description. Please note, the version of DiskGenius you download may differ from mine. Sometimes software developers remove free features such as disk cloning in newer versions. If your version has limited functionality, try to find the same version I'm using. Alternatively, you can use Rescuezilla, a completely free program covered later in this video. You will see 2 drives. Source drive, this is your main drive, containing the operating system partition, hidden technical partitions, and a recovery partition. Target drive. This is the new SSD or HDD where the data will be cloned. Go to the Tools section and select System Migration. In the new window, select the target drive for data migration. At this point, you can change the disk partitions. The source disk usually contains 3 hidden partitions and 1 visible partition with the operating system. The target disk will include all partitions from the source disk, plus any unallocated space, if the target disk is larger than the source. You can resize unallocated space to create an additional partition, for example D drive. In my case, I allocate all the unallocated space to C drive since I don't need an additional partition. Check the box next to Prevent System from Sleeping During Execution and click Start. In the pop-up window, select Hot Migration to begin the process. The cloning time depends on the amount of data on your source drive. Once the process is complete, you will see all transferred partitions on the target drive. Now you can install the new SSD on your laptop. Macrium Reflect X. Macrium Reflect is a well-known backup and disk imaging solution. The 30-day free trial includes a disk cloning feature. Before downloading, select the version that matches your Windows system, 32-bit or 64-bit. Next, you will need to register to receive a registration code for activating the 30-day trial. Please note, the version of Macrium Reflect you download may differ from mine. The developer may have removed free disk cloning in newer versions. If cloning is no longer free, you can use Rescuezilla, a completely free alternative covered later in this video. After installing the software, reboot your system before launching the program. Open Macrium Reflect. You will see 2 disks. Source disk contains the operating system partition, hidden technical partitions, and a recovery partition. Target disk. This is the new SSD or HDD where data will be cloned. Select the source disk and click Clone this disk. In the new window, select the target disk for cloning. Click Copy Partitions, then choose Shrink or Extend to fill the target disk from the drop-down menu. Macrium Reflect will automatically distribute partitions based on the source disk. If needed, you can resize the partition with the operating system. Click Layout to modify partition sizes. C drive on the left represents your main OS partition. On the right, you can allocate space for D drive if you want an additional partition. If you don't need an extra partition, select Fill Space to allocate all unallocated space to C drive. Click Next to proceed. A new window will appear with an option to schedule the cloning process. Skip this step if you want to proceed immediately. Click Finish to begin cloning. A pop-up window will appear asking if you want to save a backup file. Uncheck the box if you don't need it. You can save it if necessary. Click OK to start the data transfer. The cloning time depends on the amount of data on the source disk. Once the cloning is complete, you will see all transferred partitions on the target disk. Now you can install the new SSD on your laptop. AOMEI Backupper. AOMEI Backupper is a Windows-based restoration tool that offers free disk backup functionality. Download the installation file from the official website, link in the description. During installation and operation, Windows security may block the program's access to the drive. If prompted, grant access to ensure the software functions properly. If you go to the Clone section and select Disk Clone, you will see that this feature is no longer free. However, in AOMEI Backupper Standard version 6.3, an older version, disk cloning remains free. But even in the latest version, you can still clone a disk using the Disk Backup function. In the Disk Backup section, select the source disk you want to clone and click Add. Choose where to save the disk backup. Please note, you cannot save it on the target drive where the data will be restored. Click Start Backup to begin the process. If you have insufficient storage space to create a backup, consider using Rescuezilla, a completely free alternative covered later in this video. Once the backup is complete, locate the backup file. Click Restore and ensure the Restore the entire disk checkbox is selected. Choose the target drive where the backup data will be restored. Check the SSD alignment option if using an SSD for optimal performance. Click Start Restore to begin the process. Although this method requires additional storage space for the backup, it remains a reliable way to clone a disk. Once the restoration process is complete, shut down your laptop and install the new drive. Rescuezilla is a free, open-source Linux-based environment with a graphical user interface. It is built on the same technology as CloneZilla, but designed to be more user-friendly. To work with it, you will need a USB drive, at least 2 GB, to write the Rescuezilla image. Download the Rescuezilla image file, link in the description. To create a bootable USB, download and install Balena Etcher. Let's write the Rescuezilla image to USB. Insert the USB drive into your computer and open Balena Etcher. Select the Rescuezilla image file. Ensure your USB drive is detected, then click Flash to create a bootable disk. Once completed, restart your computer. When your computer restarts, press F12 to open the boot menu. On some models, it may be F8, F9, F10, or Escape. In the boot menu, select your USB drive and press Enter. When Rescuezilla loads, choose your preferred language. On the next screen, select Start Rescuezilla and press Enter. From the available options, select Clone. The next window will show you a list of available drives. If your source disk is missing, enter BIOS settings and change SATA operation from RAID to AHCI. Each BIOS interface may look different, but the process is generally similar. Back in Rescuezilla, select the source disk to be cloned and click Next. Select the target disk where the data will be transferred and click Next. You will now see all partitions, including hidden technical partitions, recovery partition, and operating system partition. It is recommended to clone all partitions to ensure a complete operating system transfer. Click Next and confirm the cloning process. The cloning time depends on the amount of data on the source disk. Once cloning is complete, exit Rescuezilla and open a disk partition manager. Locate the target disk where the data was transferred. If your new disk is larger, you may see an unallocated partition. You have 2 options: create a new D drive from the unallocated space, or merge the unallocated space with C drive. To merge with C drive, select Basic Data Partition. Right-click and choose Resize from the drop-down menu. Adjust the partition size or merge all unallocated space into C drive. Click Apply Operations to Device to save changes. After completing the operation, exit Rescuezilla. If you change the SATA operation from RAID to AHCI, remember to switch it back to RAID in the BIOS. Otherwise, Windows may not boot properly. Now you can install the new SSD on your computer and start using it. Boot failures or missing operating system errors. Sometimes after cloning your drive and installing your new SSD, you power up your computer and you get a missing operating system error, or it just won't boot at all. This usually happens because the bootloader or EFI partition didn't clone correctly, or BIOS isn't pointing to the new drive. The first thing I'd recommend is to jump into your BIOS settings and check that the new SSD is set as your primary boot device. If that doesn't fix it, you may need to repair your bootloader using Windows recovery tools, or make sure you've cloned all the necessary system partitions, not just your C drive. Once you've done that, reboot and you'll hopefully see Windows come right up. BIOS configuration errors. Now, this one might seem a little tricky if you're not used to poking around in your BIOS or UEFI settings, but it's super important. Many modern computers have multiple settings for storage controllers or boot modes, like Legacy BIOS versus UEFI or AHCI versus IDE modes. If you cloned your Windows drive in UEFI mode but the BIOS is set to Legacy, or vice versa, your computer might not recognize the new SSD, or it could throw a No Boot Device Found error. So before you even clone, double check how your Windows is currently set up, Legacy or UEFI, SATA mode, AHCI or IDE, and make sure that matches what's in your BIOS settings. If everything lines up, your SSD should appear just fine and boot without any drama. Windows activation issues. One of those less obvious problems that can pop up is Windows suddenly telling you it's not activated anymore after you clone. Microsoft's activation can sometimes interpret the cloning process, especially if there are major hardware differences, as a new PC. The easiest fix is to link your Windows license to your Microsoft account before you clone. Then, if Windows complains, you can sign back in, run the activation troubleshooter, and usually you'll be good. If that fails, you might need to enter your product key again or contact Microsoft support. But in most cases, simply associating your license with your account ahead of time saves a ton of hassle. If you have any additional questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. Don't forget to check the video description for links to useful resources. Thank you for watching, you are on How-FixIT, and I'll see you in the next video.